Welcome to the Advance. Sitting here with Brandon Waltens, senior editor, Texas Scorecard. I'm
Yes,
Michael
a Merry
Sullivan.
Christmas week to you.
Yeah, but I mean, you say Merry Christmas, but we have a happy week. I think. Yeah. So anyway, so it's Monday. Christmas is coming up this week. Hope everyone is having a nice, easy start to the week because, of course, we've made Christmas so harried, right? That all the craziness. So it's nice to just take a few minutes and sit with Brandon to talk about.
It's nice. We've got the decoration. You've already tucked into the Collins Street Bakery fruitcake.
Yep.
Do you know how many?
I had my first bit of fruitcake this year on Real Texans. You can go back and find the first time I've ever had fruitcake on Real Texans with Thomas McNutt. His family owns Collins Street Bakery. Did an interview with interviewed McNutt about Collins Street Bakery. You can find that in the Real Texans on YouTube. But that was the first time I ever had.
The first time,
and I enjoyed it.
Michael, do you know how many fruitcakes are sold in the United States every year?
Are you asking real or just a joke?
I'm asking. Do you know?
No, it's a lot. It's like
know.
Millions of pounds or something.
I'll tell you the answer at the end of the show.
Oh my! All right, let's talk. If you're not going to just tell us, so let's talk about other things. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's coming in 2026. But first, let's talk a little bit about what we're doing this week.
Yeah.
Right, Texas Scorecard. Yeah, look. This week, next week, we'll kind of spoil it for all of you. We kind of dip a little bit. It's Christmas, it's New Year's. Folks taking a couple of days off here and there, that kind of thing. We are doing a lot though of looking at the past year. Kind of reflection. Calvin Coolidge, I think, described Christmas as a time of reflection. That's not bad. A little bit of reflection, looking backwards, but we're also looking at some new laws coming into effect, including new legislation requiring counties to enter into agreements with immigration and custom enforcement.
This was a big part of the border security push during this last legislative session that even moved into a bit of the special session as well. But this was really the talk of the session as far as it came to border security. And this was the marquee bill that ended up coming out, which essentially says that these local governments, specifically these counties, need to enter into these 287G agreements with the federal government, with ICE, in order to help assist them with deportations and with going after illegal aliens. Now, 287G is a program that essentially has existed that allows local governments to work with the federal government when it comes to going after illegal immigration. The difference here is that this law that's going to affect requires these counties to enter into these agreements. And so this is a big shift. The hanging question that we have is that while some have already started this process, a lot of the big counties haven't entered into an agreement yet. And we'll see what they end up doing because this legislation is set to go into effect in January.
And this is not legislation that's kind of a happy clappy,
no, it's not. It's not optional.
There are consequences for the counties and for the sheriff's departments, particularly if they don't participate.
There are actual consequences, and you've seen people specifically in these blue counties be very vocally opposed to this. Right? We've seen in Bexar County where the sheriff there has been very vocal against it, and some of these other counties. They're not going to have a choice. So we're going to see if they end up doing so before the end of the year, if they end up doing so early in January before these penalties start to kick in.
So, I think no matter what one wants to say about the Trump administration, it is almost universally accepted that the Trump administration on the federal side and then with the states following in after has succeeded in all but ending illegal border crossings. Now, there are still an unknown number, definitionally. We don't know exactly how many illegal aliens are in the country. We've written about, people being arrested, all those, the deportations, that kind of stuff. But in terms of stopping the hemorrhaging, absolute success. This in less than a year by the Trump, going from from these insanely large numbers coming across, the caravans and all that kind of stuff, to now you just don't have them coming.
No, you don't. We had the story last week that I think we've got 7 months now in a row where there's been essentially zero illegal aliens being released by ICE, which even just doing that, right? Think about where we were during the Biden administration, where they would process them, release them, tell them to come back for a court date, right?
Come back in 10 years for a court date.
Exactly. Just that stopping alone has been a big help. And certainly you've seen the administration out there saying, and of course there's all sorts of different numbers, saying that they've overseen the deportation of 2.5 million illegal aliens this year. Regardless, I think that just goes to show how big this problem had become, and why there's such a continued push by conservatives, especially people who voted for the Trump administration, to say, let's continue this. Let's not let up the gas. We need to continue this push.
And this goes to why this 287G program is such a push, because this is not people taking up a post at the border and watching the river for a movement. This is dealing with the people who came illegally into the country and either just managed to escape ICE altogether, or we got those little come back and see us in a decade notes from the Biden administration. These are folks who are in the country illegally, taking jobs, taking up affordable housing, taking up
committing crimes,
so that and that really is then why why the federal government, the legislature need the Wichita County Sheriff's Department participating, why they need Potter County participating, why they need Harris County and Dallas County, all the counties participating, is they can deal with this problem inside the country.
It's all hands on deck, and so the more the merrier, right, so to speak. And they certainly need the assistance. But we've already seen just what a change at the top can do.
All right, so let's look ahead, if you will, 2026. Usually, and given kind of what we do, it kind of makes sense that usually we're looking ahead when we talk about election seasons to the fights in the Texas House, fights for the Texas House,
traditionally,
state legislature. This time around, you've got a couple of open seats. Actually, I think a fair number of open seat elections. But really, in terms, I think for most folks, the Texas House has kind of reached something of an equilibrium. And interestingly, the real fight this year is going to be for the U.S. Senate, something that we have, people have been angry with John Cornyn, people have been angry with Ted Cruz, they've been angry, but they all kind of in the primary, it's always fizzled out. This time, you got a real fight going in the U.S. Senate.
Well, the numbers play that out, right? I mean, we talked when the first polls came out 1 or 2 months ago, saying, "Wow, here's a poll that shows John Cornyn in third place. Is this a sort of an outlier? What's happening here?" Since then, we've seen poll after poll after poll coming from not just the campaigns, right? Sometimes campaigns will do their own polls, and you always have to treat that with a little bit of suspicion, right?
Everyone with my bumper sticker on their car says they will vote for you.
Exactly. But we've actually seen repeated polls coming from all sorts of outlets that show the same thing, which is that John Cornyn, the incumbent senator, is in big trouble. If he's not third in a lot of these polls, he's second or about tied for second within the margin of error. Ken Paxton in the lead in most of these polls. Wesley Hunt, congressman, also besting John Cornyn in many of these polls. It's a terrible place for an incumbent to be. It's like nothing we've really seen, certainly before that I can think of, not just in Texas, but it's hard to imagine another time we've seen an incumbent senator face this much trouble in his own party nationwide. Note the fact, by the way, that we are now in the end of the year. The primary election is early voting is going to be starting in 2 months, less than some of these cases, right?
Middle of February.
And we have not seen yet an endorsement from the president on this. Now, he was out early endorsing in these, of course, the Texas legislative races, where he came out and endorsed a lot of folks there. He has weighed in on some of these open seats. He's weighed in on the congressional races, by and large, in Texas. He has so far stayed out of the race for Senate in Texas. I think what you can read from that is that the president certainly has shown a willingness and maybe a tendency to support an incumbent if the incumbent is sort of the viable, looks like they're going to be the viable candidate, right? And for a lot of reasons, maybe thinks he can work better with them. A lot of different reasons why that might be the case. But the fact that he has not done that yet tells you that even the polling they're seeing shows that it looks like this race is wide open right now.
Okay, so because of the Senate race, we have an open seat for the Attorney General of Texas, big four-way race. This is where sometimes I think folks, if you look on social media, you see one candidate's clearly in the lead. You look at the polling, another candidate's clearly in the lead. I know this is heretical, and maybe it's because it's Christmas and I've already eaten half of a fruitcake, but way to go, Collins Street. For me, the Attorney General's race feels like such a success for the conservative wing of the Republican Party, in that you've got 4 candidates, all of whom a conservative can make a strong case for. Now, look, they're, the people who are all in on one candidate's going to, I'm being lit up by folks saying, oh, how dare you say that the other candidates are hated.
But when you compare it to 12 years ago,
but compare it to, Dan Morales, the Attorney General who ended up in jail, Democrat, right? And the kind of things that each of them have said. They've all said different things.
Dan Branch, who I think is like a Democrat now.
All of these cats, all 4 of the candidates, all 4 of these cats are talking about doing very aggressive things with the Attorney General's office. Things Attorney Generals didn't used to talk about doing. None of them talk about, even John Cornyn, even Greg Abbott. In many ways, even Ken Paxton, when he started out, Ken Paxton only realized the kind of impact you can make as the Attorney General. So you've got these 4 folks coming in. All of them can make a very credible claim to go in and do big things. Now, clearly I'm going to vote for one of them. You're going to vote for them. You're going to vote for one of them. And we're going to definitely vote for the other 3, right? I mean, that's fine. But I think when we take a step back and wow, we don't have any real stinkers. Now, again, if you're all sold on candidate A, you think candidate B is Satan incarnate. I get it. But for the normal human being who's going to be voting the Republican primary, who's going to start sometime in mid-January, looking at these candidates, they're going to be able to go, wow, I got 4 interesting choices here. None of whom would you be really embarrassed by if they become there. That's a win, it feels like, for Republican primary voters.
Well, I think this is kind of one of those moments where we can all take a step back and say, look, the work that conservative activists have been doing for the last, just look at the last time we had an open race for Attorney General. So that was 12 years ago. Think of the difference now, right? The fact that this has been pushed so much, and a lot of that is because of the work that conservative activists have done. A lot of it is due to the work that Attorney General Ken Paxton has done in reshaping and redefining the role in many ways of the Attorney General, taking a more active, offensive approach rather than just being kind of the state's defense attorney, right? Things have really changed. I think that's something that we can certainly be grateful for.
We also have 5 congressional seats. New Republican opportunity seats, I guess we have them. Might not get all 5. They're definitionally unknowns. That's also driving the political conversation more in some ways heading in 2026 than in the past.
Well, there's these 5 new open seats that potentially could be Republican pickups, right? That were done after redistricting during the last summer. And you add that to the fact that you have 6 Republicans that are not going to be returning to the Congress. So you have 11 open seat races, and you have, at least 11 candidates in each of these seats, right? A lot of these races are going to be going to runoffs, I think. But right now you've got a ton of people throwing their hats in the ring for these seats, and we've not seen this many open congressional seats, ever. Normally there's maybe a handful. But this is a really big shift that we're going to have in 2026.
Yeah, outstanding. All right, Brandon Waltens, hope you and yours have a
very Michael.
Oh, yeah. What was the answer to your
2 million?
2 million pounds of pound cake? Or
2 million fruit cakes.
Fruit cake.
And then actually over 1 million pounds, I think, from Collins Street Bakery. And I'm not sure how the math works on that, but that's what came up when I Googled it right before we went on. So,
wow. Okay. Okay. Well, I'm sure Google's telling you the truth. Why would Google lie to you?
Why would they lie?
Yeah. All right. Okay. So we will not be with you next week, but look forward to seeing you in the new year. Until then, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and yours.
Bye.